in a normal year, this is quite a stressful job, but under current circumstances, it's nuts. Okay, as we said, the impact of Chalara on press has been extreme and unprecedented. In the local press, on TV, there's Ben in a starring role. He's only been working for the Forestry Commission for about a fortnight, and suddenly he's on television. Obviously, it's been major news, and as Mike said, it's gone right to the top of government, so this has been enormous. There's even been muggins here on the telly quite a bit. As I say, I've got beyond the embarrassment thing now. Okay, a bit about its life cycle. I'm sure most of you have picked the gist of this up, but it is essential that we understand as professionals how this disease spreads, because that's the only way we have any chance of mitigating its impact. The sexual stage produces spores from mushrooms that stay on the leaf stem or the rachis, and those move on air currents June to September. They get onto the leaves, and then they move down through the leaflet stem into the main rachis. And you can see on this one the early stages of the fungus getting into the main leaf stem there. You then start to see these very distinctive diamond-shaped lesions as it moves down the branches into the main stem. And that can get quite extreme in terms of cracking and obviously reaction growth. And you can sometimes see epicormics as well. But as particularly in small trees, they can get girdled quite quickly and die within the season. And in larger trees, obviously we've not seen the effects of this in Britain yet, but on the continent, they tend to hang around for a year or two and get finally knocked over by honey fungus. The leaves then fall down into the leaf litter. They're retained on the forest floor. They overwinter, and then the whole cycle starts again. There's no dormant phase like with Phytophthora, and the spores can't exist outside of the environment for more than 48 hours, is my understanding. So in some ways, there are things that we could potentially do in terms of that leaf litter to mitigate this. Again, you'll probably be fairly familiar with the spread of this. It was first found in Poland in the early 90s. It's thought to come originally from Asia. It's moved through the continent in the years that followed, and was first found in England in nursery stock in Buckinghamshire in February, and then was subsequently found in Leicester in a car park from planted stock in June. And then I think Andrew Falcon was one of the first people to identify it in the wider environment. Our plant health people came over, took samples, and at the same time we had reports from the Greenlight Trust, from the various wildlife trusts and from the Woodland Trust, all around about the same time, and they were finally analysed and confirmed as Chalara in the wider environment only last month. In terms of identification, I won't dwell on this very long, but it's very clear in terms of where you still see retained leaves on the trees where they're black, and the central stem is very black as well, rather than blotchy or brown or autumn-like. That's quite diagnostic, but obviously that's going to become more difficult as the leaves fall off during the winter. You'll see retained leaves, particularly the ones in the background there. If you see retained dead leaves on the tree, that's quite a good symptom to go and look at that tree. You'll sometimes see some reaction growth, some epicormics, where clearly the tree has tried to react and put new growth on in response to the disease. And sometimes you see, and it's really, really obvious. This is only about 7 miles away, this site. These are the typical sorts of early lesions that you'll see. As you can see, that central leader there is completely dead, and you'll see that distinctive V-shape pattern on the bottom there. and this won't show up particularly well, but what's quite distinctive on smaller branches is you'll see nodes of clear or apparently clear green, olive green growth, and then some dieback, and then some clear, and then some dieback. Well, this is the only thing that will cause that sort of symptom. If the tree was frosted, for example, you'd see potentially some dieback from the tip, but you wouldn't see areas of internodal death. Then you get into these very distinctive diamond-shaped lesions on branches and main stems, and they can, in extreme, look really quite nasty. Usually not as black or as purple as that. Usually it's just the shape of that lesion that you're picking up. Here's another one which Ben split, and then you can see the spread of the mycelia up and down the stem, which go a lot further than the lesion would give you cause to think. Okay, so I've deliberately gone through that quite quickly, and I think we will, in our conference in December, we can dwell a bit longer on all of that and discuss the implications. The thing I've been particularly involved in is the action that we've taken over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We had confirmation of wider environment infection on the Wednesday. Was that 3 weeks ago? On the Thursday, I had Ben Jones and Barnaby Wilder give all of my team instruction in its symptoms, and on the Friday, I'd pulled them all off to do an extensive survey of the entire patch. Now, my patch now covers from Southend Pier to the top of the Peak District, so that was quite a logistic exercise right from that point. We set ourselves 3 weeks to cover the entire patch, which was the former East Midlands as well as the East of England. In the area of known infection, which is in the Norfolk-Suffolk area, we were doing 4 inspections per 10 kilometres square, and then further east we were doing 2. That was how it started as of up to last Saturday night, when I was told in no uncertain terms we had to do 4 across the whole of Britain. That's when Cobra, etc., got involved, and it got troops mobilised on an incredible scale. So on Sunday, then I was able to get almost 100 of the DEFRA family out in the field, which was a fantastic effort from Natural England, the Environment Agency, Broads Authority, and FERA, the research part of DEFRA, backed up by a lot of volunteer work that was going on with the Greenlight Trust, with the Woodland Trust, the National Trust, the CLA, and lots of others as well. All of that data being thrown into the pot. That activity was sustained through Monday and Tuesday. People going out on the ground, taking photographs where they see symptoms and reporting them back. There's a form to fill in, and then a huge data collection exercise which was completed on Tuesday. This is, in the first week, I was actually able to get out myself and do some inspection, so this is one of my forms, but that just shows you the sort of data we were capturing. Presence or absence of Chalara symptoms, take photographs, but we were also capturing some other basic stuff about, is it in ancient woodland, what's the structure of the ash that we're looking at, what other species are there, soil types, because you never know, some of this might be useful later on. So this is the picture, and you won't be able to pick up the detail of that in some way, that's no bad thing. And I'm sharing this with you as a professional audience because you will understand that the presence of some symptoms doesn't mean that the disease is there. This is just indications of what the field surveyors thought they were seeing. And then FERA and the plant health chaps go back into the field and take samples. It goes through to the labs for DNA analysis. And in fact, they've got mobile facilities to do that as well now, so they can get results within the hour. And most of that, all of that analysis is now being done, and I expect probably Monday you will see the official map suddenly have a whole lot of new cases. Clearly that's not an indication of spread, that's an indication of where we're finding it. So the dots on there, as I say, you won't pick up that detail, are where we've done a sample, and there's some red crosses on there where we've seen symptoms. Now, not surprisingly, we're seeing it in the area of previously known infection in Norfolk and Suffolk, but we found some in Essex as well. and quite a distribution on the Cambridgeshire-Bedfordshire border there. There's one confirmed case there, so perhaps it's not surprising that we're seeing more symptoms there. We also were seeing symptoms, or people thought they were seeing symptoms up in Derbyshire and so on. I suspect they will prove not to be Chalara. The overall spread in terms of, I'll come back to that in a minute, in terms of GB, these are both planted sites from nursery stock that was known to be infected and wider environment. But the wider environment cases spread now from the bottom of Kent up to Northumbria. But they're almost exclusively on the east coast. However, there is one case reported in Monmouthshire, but whether that's related to nursery stock is yet to be determined. So I wouldn't necessarily take that to the bank. Now, of course, bearing in mind that we've only done random samples in 4 per 10 kilometres square, we've also picked up the unsolicited reports that we've had from various people in this room. Thank you for those. But this isn't the whole picture. This simply shows you the distribution. In terms of the actual survey, the rapid survey itself, over 9,000 or almost 10,000 plots were surveyed over effectively the weekend, of which 1,700 were in my patch, and so about a half of those, about 800 or so, would have been in the east of England. And as you can see, we had more than anywhere else. It's not something I'm particularly proud of. And there's around about 160 confirmed or symptomatic cases in my patch. But as I say, that's all subject to testing. The official stats as of yesterday are as follows. You take those in, I'll have a sip of coffee. Obviously, the recent planted sites, we stopped looking for those once we were engaged in the wider environment issues. We'll go back to that, so expect that list to raise. My understanding is the trace forward exercise from the known nurseries where there was infected stock involves over 1,000 sites. So expect those numbers to increase dramatically. Andrew alluded to the length of time that it's been here. We had on Tuesday all the acknowledged experts, pathologists, etc., in Britain come to look at some sites in Norfolk. They felled a mature tree about 30 years old or so, and it was clearly evident in the crown. You'd never see it from the ground, but it was evident in such a way that their feeling is that it's been here for some years. 2, 3, 4, we don't know. Of course, we're only seeing it in the young growth, typically natural regeneration, recent planting or coppice regrowth. But that's because we can see it at that level, not because it's not elsewhere. Incidentally, the reports that it's been found in mature trees, I think, is slightly misleading. It's mature woodland trees in mature woodland rather than mature trees. But I think this indicates the fact it will be in mature trees as well. Okay, so that's a quick whiz through what we've done. I think it's more productive to talk about what the hell do we do next. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Chalara is only the latest of a whole raft of pests and diseases that we've seen in the last decade or so. We've got concerns about sweet chestnut, which, you know, that story's gone away a bit, but I think that will come back. You'll all be aware of the impact of Phytophthora on larch, particularly on the west coast. And there are other Phytophthora having a go at juniper and Lawson cypress and so on. And oak processionary moth as well, which isn't all that far away. I was looking at that last week in Richmond Park, where they had 4,000 nests last year of oak processionary moth. So there are a lot of things out there to clobber us. Now, this graph I knocked up very clumsily last night, and I don't lay claim to its scientific accuracy, but actually it usefully illustrates the point. Most disease profiles in terms of time and significance have that sort of curve, and we're probably, you know, we're right down the bottom of that curve at the moment. It will go up to a particular level, it will plateau for a bit, and then it will go down, but it will never go down to the level of where we've been. So we've got to probably accept that Chalara is with us for good now in Britain. But we can probably mitigate the slope and the height of that curve by the actions that we now take. And I think that's where we've got to concentrate our effort. The first thing, obviously, as professionals that we can do and be seen to be doing is take biosecurity seriously. A number of people have been talking about this for years, and some have been doing it. Now, I would expect everybody in this room to be doing it, because although in some ways one might argue that it's a token gesture, and the risks of spreading Chalara through organic matter are small, but they're there. Actually, do you dare stand up and say that you didn't make things worse by not taking these precautions? What?
Well, how are you going to make sure that deer
Ah, well, yes, yeah, that's a wider issue. But I think, yes, and there are lots of reasons. This is an airborne disease, so clearly, if it's spread 100 miles over the North Sea, to that extent, what we do is less material. But do we dare make it worse? And I've left my biosecurity kit at the back if anybody wants to have a filch. Don't nick any of it, because it's the only stuff I've got. But if you want to look at what we've put together, we've got a list that we can supply you of the suppliers and what we're using and so on. We can go through that. And then please do so. The whole kit, if you go the whole hog, is about 80 quid. But basically, taking the organic matter off, washing your boots thoroughly is the message, and that's the one that we're giving out to the public particularly. Obviously, we've got to think about, on that video, one of the comments I had is, I hope he cleaned his hands between touching the infected stuff and the clean stuff. You know, as we poke around, obviously we've got to think about personal hygiene in that sense, and also on tools and equipment, particularly when we're moving between sites. And I think that also needs to extend to machinery. I've been talking to the MOD this week about them putting in spray washer facilities, because they're moving troops from Stanta, where we know they've got Chalara, to other parts of the country, tracked vehicles, this sort of stuff. So they're taking it very seriously. They're going to put in wash bays, and you know, being the army, they'll do it proper as well. I think we have a responsibility to really take this seriously. Okay, in terms of what do we do next? Clearly, we need to put more effort into research. There is more money now being put into research. Maybe it's too little, maybe it's too late. But actually, I think I've seen the tide turn there, and clearly that's important in terms of management information for us to be able to deal with this. We then get into some interesting discussions. I think there are things, and I think you'll see in the action plan today, I think there will be specific action around the trace forward of known infected nursery stock. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't specific action about that. Because if we don't deal with those infected plants, that clearly gives stepping stones to the infection to hop over natural distribution. I think my advice to everybody that I've been speaking to as a professional forester, I would recommend not planting ash this year. Let's just wait and see what happens. I think I'd be surprised if you could get hold of significant quantities of the stuff anyway, but I think it seems prudent this year not to plant ash. And we can talk more about the impacts on grant schemes and so on later on. Let's not go and fell everything, because apparently on the continent they did just that, and the trees that might have shown some natural genetic resistance then weren't able to show that resistance because they were on the floor. So I think, you know, one of the messages that came out of the summit, I was very pleased to see, let's not panic, let's not go and fell everything in a hurry, because actually we might make the things worse. Looking longer term, we've got to think about provenances that might show some resistance, and think about alternative species as well in place of ash. And it's perfectly possible that we can use silvicultural management to mitigate it. I'm seeing it mainly in enclosed woodland conditions, particularly in coppice regrowth within a coop where the air is sluggish and the wind doesn't blow through. I'm not seeing it generally in hedgerows or new planting. Now, that might change, that's just anecdotal. But there's something about managing the air that flows within the woodland that we could do to, mitigate what we're doing. And then finally, there's a list of things, again, which I suspect people might want to talk about. As you know, there's an import ban on nursery stock and plant material, and a movement order as well associated with that. That's still in its early stages, but effectively in an area of known infection, you wouldn't be able to move ash material from an area of known infection to an area of non-infection. We may or may not be in the territory of putting statutory notices on those properties where there is known Chalara infection. We may or may not be doing that on a more area-wide basis. But the implications of that would be, certainly in the short term, you would not be able to move timber out of that wood. The government action plan, we'll see what that looks like at midday or so. And as I say, if you get early information about that, please share it. I think there's an awful lot we need to do in terms of communication and education. Communication within the industry and education outside. There's quite a lot of nonsense talked about Chalara, and I think we need to work together to stifle that. One of the issues around public access. I think one of the potential benefits of the spotlight being on forestry at the moment is in terms of people caring for their local woodlands. And in some ways, as long as we get that biosecurity message across, I don't think there's any reason that we should stop public access, because I think we need to enhance that. And most of the organisations have taken a really good step on this, and I praise you for that. As I say, the conference in December, I think there is an appetite to know more about Chalara, and unless you tell me otherwise, I think I'll organise that. And I think there are some potential silver linings about this in terms of funding that will come into the sector. The future of the Forestry Commission possibly might be tied up with this. I mean, we may not talk about the independent panel report much today, but the timing is significant in terms of the government's reaction to that. So it's not all bad news, but I think we are going to have a couple of difficult years. Thank you.